Good morning, everyone. It's a joy to be with you, and this is such a beautiful topic. If you think of everything that we have, the Master left us, and that Swamiji left here with us, everything, like listening to this metaphysical meditations, everything that he left was for attunement. All the chants, all the songs that Swamiji wrote, that Master wrote, that all the books that they wrote, the places that they've left for us to be at, like here, and all the centers and colonies and meditation groups. Everything, each other, all the Guru Bhais, everything is for one purpose and one purpose only: attunement. They left us a formula for attunement. How to stay in tune, how to keep our energy uplifted, how to stay centered, how to stay clear and focused and happy and joyful in the midst of difficulties in our lives, how to stand firm amidst the crash of breaking worlds, how to keep your antenna up, and just listening to this beautiful goodbye. My goodness, don't you want to go there? That's our home. And just listening to that, where does it take you? In attunement, you just get uplifted immediately and you think of God. When you sing these chants, Swamiji wrote, I awaken thy light. You fill my heart with music. What do you think of? You think of, I'm going there. That's my consciousness. You get in attunement. You go out to a rock concert or wherever people go these days. You're not in tune. You're out of tune. You're with certain people, you get out of tune. The weddings, I don't know if you get in tune, but most people get out of tune. It's not a good thing. Master Swamiji laid out, here's how you can always hear my voice through every chant, through every song, through every word on every page, through every satsang, through every time you serve, your heart, every devotional call, everything. I am with you and you'll be attuned with me. And if you think of the great ones over the millennia who wrote the great scriptures, think of Mahabharata, think of the Holy Bible, think of how did that come to earth? Through a channel who was in tune. Channels who were in tune. How did the Hatha Yoga postures come? Did somebody just sit down and think, I want to do this, I want to do that? No, it came. How did the great scientists' discoveries come? They came because someone was in tune. The great films, you could say, the great, like Gandhi, that film. Somebody was obviously in tune to be able to draw that to earth. You think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his work, and John F. Kennedy, and all the great ones. They were in tune. They were martyred for truth. They didn't care. They were in tune with the reality. They came for a particular mission, and they did that mission. Through God's grace, they were tuned in, and they were able to bring that to earth. And everything that's been done that is great, some person open themselves up to receive that book, or to receive the grace, or to receive the postures, or to receive energization. Master opened him up to that. He discovered it. How did he discover it? Attunement. How are all the pranayams discovered? Attunement. How are all the meditation techniques discovered? Attunement. How was Kriya Yoga? Attunement. Anything, even a recipe was attunement for carrot cake or apple pie. It's all attunement, attunement, attunement. And this is what our path brings, how to be in tune and stay in tune. And many people think attunement is psychic things and phenomena. Master said, yoga is not magic, sword swallowing, or crystal gazing. He says the art of super living. The art of attunement is really what yoga is about. And I remember being many places around the world. In Africa, everywhere we went, people were into black magic. They thought that was their attunement. Totally wrong. We went to Australia. Everybody, without fail, I mean, not that it doesn't exist. Master said UFOs do exist. And it's fine, but why put your whole life into that? Everybody was into UFOs, extraterrestrials, beam me up. You know, I met a woman, she was the accountant for the group, and she was so down to earth, and I just kept looking for anybody who was down to earth, and she was so down to earth, and we went to one program, and she said to me at one point, she says, Dhyana ji, I said, oh, Dhyana ji, I said, yes, and I was banking on this one person, that they were the only one who was going to be clear-minded, and she says, look up at the chandelier. Do you see it's moving? I said, no, it's not moving. Everybody was into phenomena. That's not attunement, that's phenomena. And Swamiji tells the story of a woman who, so-called psychic, and she said, I can guess what astrological sign you are because I'm a psychic. And he says, well, okay, try. She gave name one, no. Libra, no. Scorpio, no. She went down the line, no. She named 9 out of 12. Then she finally got Taurus. He said, yeah. And she said, well, that figures. He said, but you didn't figure it. You know, she's like, she's psychic. How come she didn't get it right away? She didn't get it. And the beautiful story, hilarious, of Master with the man who could go into cosmic consciousness is in the path, in the new path. And he tells him he can go. Master says, okay, but he said he really meant he could travel astrally, astral travel. So he says, well, so okay, if you can astral travel, what? And so the man says, I'll show you. So he sits there and, you know, his eyes flickering and, you know, all signs that he wasn't deep. Master says, okay, so, no, he didn't say anything. So the man says, why don't you ask me where I am? And Master said, okay, where are you? He says, I'm on top of the dome of the Taj Mahal. And Master says to him, there must be something wrong with your dome. He says, I see you sitting right here. The man says, no, I can do anything. And he says, okay, well, if you can go anywhere, tell me what's happening downstairs in the cafe. And he says, well, it's this and that. The Master said, no, this is what's happening. Boom, boom, boom. He said, let's go see. The man was wrong. Guruji is right. The man said he was in tune. He wasn't in tune. This is phenomena. Be careful. Attunement's very different. A master can be in tune. And Guruji, the real attunement he had, he would read people's thoughts. You know, Swamiji said it over and over. He said, I know every thought you think. Now, if you know every thought of every disciple, not of them, of all the people on the whole planet, in the world, on astral beings, on astral planets and causal planets, if you know every thought, which a master can know every thought, this is attunement to God, not to some other reality, lower reality, attunement to God. He could stand next to a person, and you've seen the photographs, and he'd start looking just like the person. You've seen it? Swamiji said, if the person was hefty, Master was hefty. If there was a slim person, he looked slim. You know, if it was a woman, he looked like a woman. If it was a man, he looked like a man. I mean, how many people do you know who look at Master's picture and say, oh, they think he's a woman? Is that your grandmother? You know, he could look like anybody he wanted. He had tuned in. And then he could speak any language. He talked to doctors about certain things. Now Swamiji told us that. Now, he wasn't a doctor, but he knew medical things. And then he could talk other languages. Remember on the ship coming to America, and the people said to him, all these British people, I guess, I'm not sure, but they said, Swamiji, can you give us a talk on the battle of life, how to fight the battle of life? Now, Master was, I mean, it must have been in his late 20s or something, but he didn't know English that well. He didn't know English that well. So he said, okay, this is what you gotta love. He just always had faith in God. If you read Autobiography of a Yogi, he tuned in, he had faith in God, and he just went for it. 3 penniless boys in Vrindavan, all the stories, it's absolute faith. So there he was, and he was preparing for his speech, which he couldn't get in. He couldn't get the words to come out, but he went. He went. How many people would have the courage? He went, he stood there, and there's time passes, and he can't get any words out in English. And then after a while, everybody starts to laugh. And he wasn't laughing, but he's inwardly praying, to his guru. You understand where he went? He went straight to his guru, God through his guru, to get the language. What a beautiful thing. He pulled down the language. So he says to his guru, "You must help me, help me," inwardly. And his guru's words are, "You can speak." How beautiful. You can speak. He's charging him up. Speak. Like he's going to America. If you can't speak English, you're not going to get anything done. He says, "You can speak." After, 5 or 10 minutes, whatever it was, Master gives a speech in English. That's all attunement. He gives a speech in English. He said he didn't know what he said even. The passenger said, "You gave a stirring speech and whatever." And he says, "Oh, it was complete attunement." And I have to tell you my own personal story that, it's not as thrilling as this, but for me it's a thrill. That all these months, I've been here 8.5 years trying to learn Hindi, and bumping along with Hindi, but I can speak Hindi now. May Hindi bol sakti hu. It's clear. So anyway, I can speak, but then Swamiji, he every time I saw him, he says, "Well, how's Hindi going down?" And great, because he doesn't want to hear that it's not going well. He was like, "Great." So then he would challenge me. he would say something. I go, "What does that mean?" It happened 2 or 3 times, and he said something else, and I said, "What?" Anyway, by the end of his trip, almost the last words of encouragement, advice, or whatever you want to call it, that Swamiji gave me in my life was to learn the Hindi script. I went, "Why?" I just go, "Why me?" We're going to the airport, almost arrived, and I'm thinking, I got up kind of easy on this trip, get Swamiji to the airport. It was like 5 minutes before we arrived, and he says, I'm in the back seat, he's in the front. "Dhyana?" I said, "Yes, I knew it was something." And he says, "Why don't you learn the Hindi script?" I said, "Why?" I just said the wrong thing. I said, "Why?" He says, "Why not?" I said, "Okay." But I thought, how on earth am I going to do that? Well, I've been going to class with little kids, all littler than me, and a wonderful teacher for 6 months, she has a lot of faith in God. And I have to tell you, I can read. Thursday, I started reading. I can't tell you how that felt. I had the little kids' book. I've been studying the alphabet, and I studied last week, because before I just kept looking at it, nothing happened, nothing worked. And I just kept praying. I just said, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this, but I need to do it. Swamiji told me, I'm going to do it. And so I studied last week, and I went to my teacher on Friday. All the little kids were there, and I started, I read to her, and I said, "This means this," and she says, "Yes, you're getting it." I said, "What?" And I had a breakthrough, and I just went, I can read! I just couldn't believe it. I can read! I told all the children, I can read! And they were just so happy. Do you know what that means? Who gave that to me? Not my brain, I'll tell you that. Master gave it. That night I went to bed, "Master, I'm reading! Hi, Swamiji, I'm reading now!" I can read. That's attunement. What a beautiful thing. You can you have to have attunement for anything, everything. To know how to do whatever it is, to read, to write, to practice yoga, to teach meditation, to do film, to whatever your job is. And you think of, these great ones, Einstein, he was so great. But you know how he was able to discover things? Attunement. Remember the story I told some of you? His teachers told his parents he was too dumb to continue in school. They said, "Take him out and give him manual labor." Einstein. And the father said, "No way." They kept him going, but you know what they did? They bought him a violin. And they said, "You just practice music." He opened up through the music. And then that that's how he became great. He said every time he would be blocked, he would open up through the music, open up. What does that mean? Attunement, attunement. He said the law of relativity came to him in a flash. Just, see, it was open, just came. Swamiji said music, you see, is everywhere. You just have your antenna up, songs, he wrote 32 melodies in a day, one song after another. And the scientist of Burbank, Luther Burbank, master, dedicates his book to Luther Burbank because he was in tune. Carver, who Devendra mentioned last week, he actually made 300 things with a peanut. I mean, he was in tune. He said, no books go into my study. I go out in the garden or in the morning, early, and I talk to the plants. And I listen to them. Now, what was he doing? He was attuning himself to nature. How many people attune themselves to nature? Nobody, hardly. Get out, talk to the trees, hug a tree. I remember this tree over here at our house. Swamiji said, he went to the house, he says, yeah, I love it. I love the tree. Then the house, and he goes out, I love this tree too. I mean, he's just totally, always open to what was happening. And then you think of the Master and Swamiji, how they wrote the Bhagavad. Master's commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita. Now, what did he say? He said, I attuned my mind to Veda Vyasa, period. He didn't say, I wrote this means that, this means this. He says, I attuned my mind to the one who it came through. And Swamiji, when he wrote his commentaries, I attuned my mind to my Guru. That's attunement. He didn't, I remember some of you were there, Devendra for sure, and maybe Suniti Somdad, but we were there, Daljit maybe different ones. Swamiji has a book this big, Keys to the Bhagavad Gita, that he wrote years ago. And he said, well, I don't have the script, not the script, but the book that I wrote with Master, I don't have that. So I'm just going to fix this little booklet up. Now, how many booklets do you know that Swamiji wrote? Booklet wasn't a word he used very often. So we all said, okay. He says, I wish I had the work that I did with Master, but I don't have it. So that took one day. So we all left, and he has this pamphlet. He says, I'll just make this, you know. Next morning we come in. He says, now I'm writing a book. Master is giving it to me. 2 months solid, he writes Keys to the Bhagavad, Essence of the Bhagavad Gita. 2 months solid, it's just flowing out of Swamiji. Remember, Anjali, different ones of you were there, just pouring out of him, and every day he did pages and pages. We couldn't keep up with the reading of pages. He said, here's more, here's more. And we asked him, is Master here, Swamiji? I mean, he says he's coming, he's giving me this book. Now that's real channeling. He's giving me this book, 2 months, 600 pages. Now that's tuning in. And he had visitors, Jyotish Devi, different people were coming through, he did everything, but he kept that book. This is attunement. And Master told Swamiji, this is the beautiful part, he said he didn't care how young, Swamiji came at 22. Who's 22 here? Nobody. So he came at 22. Master said he didn't care how young he was, how inexperienced, how new on the path. He said what he cared about was what? The bond from past lives that he had with him. Now what does that say? Bond. The attunement he had with Master, that he still had. That's Master gave him the monks. He had him organize the monks. He gave him editing. He gave him writing right away. Remember, he had him go and speak on his behalf. Now everybody's waiting for their guru, and he didn't go that often to San Diego or Encinitas, and Swamiji gets word, Master wants you to go and speak on his behalf. At that age, who'd dare to do it? And here's an avatar, and he's saying, no, I want you to go. Swamiji goes. Now, why did Master want him? Because he was in tune, obviously. And not only did he have him give the talk, he had him give the Kriya after he had only had Kriya for 8 months himself. Can you imagine giving Kriya after you had it for 8 months? Mumbling, bumbling. He had him give the talk and the Kriya at that age. And everything went off well because he was in tune. Swamiji tells us that he could do the yoga postures when Master taught him because Master helped him to do it. Otherwise he had struggles, but Master helped him to do it. He taught him Bengali words that Swamiji remembered 10 years later. And he just knew those words. You see, he was in constant attunement with the light, with God, with this Guru, with Babaji, with Lady Mahashaya, with all the masters. And this is what he's left everything for us so that we can be in attunement that way. So the things that encourage our attunement are what? Chanting, for sure. Being in satsang, seva, serving, offering yourself to God, praying, japa, singing in the choir. That's why we're trying to get a choir. We've been trying for a while, but we'll keep trying to get a choir going here. Meditation, of course. Kriya yoga, of course. Every time, energization. Every time you're doing any of those practices, you're getting in tune. Your eyes will start to glow. Your spine will get straight. Your worries start to melt away, you know? And what are the things that discourage attunement? Negativity. That's the first one. Anytime you're negative, energy drops. How are you going to be in tune if you don't have the right energy? Other things. Moodiness, selfishness, they all block the attunement. No? And another one is doing other things. Like, I remember once and I'm not putting this down, but this was not right for me. I had learned how to do Reiki. And Reiki is a valid, practice, but why did I need it anyway? So I was brand new on the path, and Swamiji had come to our center, and I had just learned all this Reiki stuff. Now I was a Kriyaban, I was on the path. So I was with Swamiji in the car, again, and I was so excited about what I had learned. So I was like, Swamiji, I learned Reiki, and I had my hands on people, and I could feel the energy was flowing into them, and I think they got a benefit. I went on and on and on, and so then Swamiji sits in the front, and he just goes like this. Now, when there was a there was something wrong. It was a and I said, I just was waiting. And then he said, maybe I should learn Reiki. And I said, no, you don't need that. Now, what was he saying? It took me 15 years to understand what even though I dropped it soon after, it took me 15 years to understand. He was saying, now why do you need that? No, he wasn't making a blanket statement. He was asking me, why do you need that? And you remember the story of Swamiji when he took 10 other initiations of Kriya from a disciple of Lady Mahashaya. You remember the story? And Swamiji said, well, I guess it's okay. But the man said, but you have to take Diksha under me. And only then will I teach you all these other Kriyas. And you can get on the internet, I hope you don't, but I'm sure you can find lots of things, but remember the story. So Swamiji said, well, I guess it's okay, it's the same line. So he goes and he takes the initiation. He learns all these other Kriyas. Wow. What happened? He said it was as if a wall came down between him and his Guru. As if Master was saying, haven't I given you enough? What does that mean, the wall? His attunement. He wasn't there. He was dabbling, and people do that all the time. I'll add this, I'll add that, I'll add this, I'll add that. Where do you get spiritual indigestion? Just be clear. If you read every book in there, read some others. If you read every book Master wrote, every book Swamiji wrote, read some others. If you know every chant Master and Swamiji wrote and can sing them, and every song of the 400, you see, in the 150 books, then maybe you can do a little bit something else. But until you get strong in yourself and in attunement with all these masters, do you know everything about them? No. Do they know who you are? They should. You see, until you really get clear in your own, the attunement will waver. Someone told me, we were doing a Bhagavad Gita class, and they went off and said, well, this is kind of not, anyway, they went off and did another one by somebody else, or read another Bhagavad Gita, which, it seems little, but if you really are going for God, it's big. And what they told me was, from the other study of the Gita, I don't know if it was a class or just a book, their mind got foggy. You see? It's not just words off of a page. Master said he put his vibrations in those books. And for sure, Swamiji put his vibrations in those books. And in the music, they chanted till they went into ecstasy. I don't mind chanting these other chants every once in a while, but we have to cling to the ones that they gave us for deeper and deeper and deeper levels of attunement. And once that attunement is there, nobody can take it away from you. This scripture today is to all those who received. How are you going to receive? To all those who could open, to all those who were in tune, to all those who were dynamically drawing, he gave power to become one with God. Beautiful, isn't it? Those who can open up enough through your attunement, he gives you the power to become one with God. Without that power, you've got 25% of the way. 25% Guruji's help, 50% God's grace. But to get the 75%, you got to be in tune. That's the trick of it. It seems, oh, they're doing it all for me. But he told that person there, if you meditate, if you stay in tune, I'll meditate for you, no? If you do this, I'll do it for you. If you're in tune, I can do it through you. If you're in tune, I will do that. And all of Ananda was created through one person who was very deeply in tune, Swami Vivekananda. Every colony, all the places, all the thousands, maybe millions, I don't know how many people his life has touched. All the people, all the meditation groups, all the things, the books, the tapes, the CDs, the TV programs, the movies, everything. But more than anything, he's touched us. And through one person being that tuned in, to even have been touched by him one time, is going to be our raft over the ocean of delusion. One person who's that in tune, giving you a blessing, taking charge of your life, helping you. And believe me, if you tune in, he's still helping us so much. Master's helping us, all of the gurus. God bless you.